To know in 6 minutes starts now.
Kirk, thank you. Chuck is next.
President Trump doesn't want more immigration judges. He wants ICE and Border Patrol. Well, I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We have 700,000 people waiting to go on trial.
But he told a rally in South Carolina he wants a different system.
We want to tell people, I'm sorry, you're coming into the country illegally. We don't want you in the country. That's it. It's now over.
But Democrats decry his zero-tolerance policy. And a week after the president's executive order to stop separating kids from parents coming here illegally, the Customs and Border Protection Commissioner says they've stopped prosecuting the parents unless they have a criminal history. And more than 500 kids have been reunited with their moms and dads. The rally last night was for South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, who's in a Republican primary runoff today.
He said, we need strong borders. We have to stop crime. We want lower taxes.
McMaster's opponent is Trump-like and also supports the president. John Warren's a millionaire businessman making his first run for office. There's voting in 6 other states today. Fox's Rachel Sutherland details a few of the races live from Washington.
Dave, 2 Trump supporters are duking it out for a chance to represent New York, Staten Island in the House. Dan Donovan, who has the backing of the president, says former Congressman and ex-convict Michael Grimm is a flawed candidate.
My opponent can't win a general election in November.
Grimm says don't count him out.
If I don't win this primary, we will lose this seat.
In Utah, Mitt Romney is trying to make a political comeback. He's battling Mike Kennedy as he seeks the seat of retiring Senator Orrin Hatch. In Maryland, famed leaker Chelsea Manning is challenging longtime Democratic Senator Ben Cardin. Dave.
Rachel, President Trump's just tweeted about Harley Davidson. The day after the company announced it would shift production overseas for motorcycles sold in Europe to avoid new tariffs on U.S. products. Well, the president wrote Harley Davidson already announced they'd move some operations to Thailand earlier this year, so they're using tariffs/trade war as an excuse. This is Fox News. Fair and balanced.
When working at a growing business, you wear many hats. The new business hat, the buying toner for the copy machine hat, the sifting through tons of resumes hat. You can throw away that last hat thanks to Indeed.com. When posting your job, Indeed lets you add screener questions that give you a less time-consuming route to your short list of qualified candidates. So go ahead, dust off that extra long lunch hat. Hiring's better when you've got your short list. Save time on hiring when you post a job on Indeed. Get started today at Indeed.com/hire.
You don't remember days, you remember moments. But when the old tapes and photos that hold your cherished memories degrade, or worse, you lose them, they're gone forever. Hi, I'm Nick Mako.
And I'm Adam Baselogger. We started Legacy Box to help you preserve those irreplaceable moments.
Load your Legacy Box with your old tapes, film, pictures, and audio, and send them in. You'll get them back on DVD or a convenient thumb drive.
Visit legacybox.com/USA. And for a limited time, you'll get 40% off your order. legacybox.com/USA.
The mother of a wheelchair-bound Homedale student who was not allowed to go on stage to accept her high school diploma is speaking out after the district superintendent says he wasn't made aware that 18-year-old Lily Portman wanted to receive her diploma on stage like everyone else. Lily's mom, Tracy Welch, tells us it's the superintendent's job to be aware of all of his students.
Are you not there to acknowledge every student and congratulate them on their accomplishments?
Welch says during a graduation practice June 18th, Lily was permitted to cross the stage in her wheelchair. A soft opening has gone well for Atlantic City's newest casinos. The new Hard Rock, formerly the Taj Mahal, and Ocean Place, formerly Revel, began welcoming gamblers this week. Gambling regulators say there were no serious issues, clearing the way for the big grand opening on Thursday. A mega adventure complex is being planned near Great Adventure. The Adventure Crossing site would also be home to a new Hilton hotel. A South Jersey developer will announce plans this week for a complex that includes an inflatable dome housing multiple turf fields, including a center court with spectator seating. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
Partly sunny and pleasant for your Tuesday across the Garden State. High temperatures this afternoon, upper 70s to around 80, little cooler than yesterday. Increasing clouds tonight, otherwise quiet, lows in the lower 60s. Mostly cloudy, breezy, more humid tomorrow, upper 70s to around 80 once again. Chance for a spot shower during the day, better chance for rain tomorrow night. Congrats on the new home. Live whole with complete home insurance coverage from Franklin Mutual Insurance. Find an agent near you at fmiweb.com. Franklin Mutual Insurance for the way you live. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPGG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hey, thank you very much. It is 5 minutes past the hour. Kirk, I thought we had a great hour together.
I enjoyed it.
I did too. And all the callers were outstanding. The last caller really brought it home. This program is sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, you got big shoes to fill. This was a dynamic hour right before you.
Good morning, Harry. Good morning, Kirk. Debbie Downer's here. How are you guys?
Chuck, welcome home. You were so missed last week while you were very, very busy on assignment in another state. And you've been very busy.
A fair amount of traveling in a relatively short period of time, yes. But the good news is now we're pretty much limited to day trips for a few weeks. And that's always a good thing.
Good.
Unfortunately, I came back Friday. I didn't have an opportunity to talk to you. You came to the office to make one of your deposits. It's kind of like, you're out after 4 days. Your head's just sort of someplace else. Yeah. But anyway, so when you take a look at what is happening here, I mean, there's a number of reasons that the market got derailed yesterday. But I think what most people are not talking about is, we are towards the tail end of June. Another week or so, we close out on the 29th, which is Friday. Then we have about 5 or 7 days where virtually there's not much going on. In the midst of it all, a holiday buried on a Wednesday. So you're going to have a lot of people, just away.
How do you think people – not that this deserves like a lengthy breakdown, but when Chuck and I were hotel executives, it was always interesting to see how a Wednesday, July 4th shakes out. Do people start it the weekend before and go through? Or I think more people probably start it and continue through the rest of that week. But I guess you could get a little bit of both.
Well, if you take, a community like Ocean City, which has your weekly rentals at in and out on a Saturday, it's pretty easy. It's in the middle of the week. Now the problem is that for those that are not off for the week, do you celebrate the weekend before? Do you celebrate the weekend after? How do you grab a couple days?
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it can create a really super week because it's already summer, but on top of that, if you build your July 4th from the weekend through the holiday, or you start it with the holiday through the next weekend, I think it sort of creates two super weekends.
I mean, it should. I mean, I believe we have a short day on Tuesday. I think the stock market closes at 1 o'clock.
So that speaks to
and then obviously
how I view it.
off on Wednesday. But having said all that, I think what is happening that I'm not. I mean, all the trade tensions. I mean, yes, we need to take that seriously. But what is happening, because all these companies are in a quiet period right now, they can't really report anything. So there's really no news flow coming regarding the second quarter. And, if I remember correctly, we couldn't wait for the first quarter. And as a result, the market had a pretty good time. I mean, it was, but now we're at the point where we're just so focused on, what's coming out of Washington, particularly what's happening geopolitically speaking, that I think we're losing sight of what's happening with our economy. And the bottom line is that wherever I go, whoever I talk to, and I was I was up in New York State, I was in Pennsylvania, I was in Connecticut, the common theme that I'm hearing from business owners is that we don't have enough qualified people to fill open positions. And this is really, I think, the first time in maybe 50 years that we have seen the sort of unemployment rate where it is.
Well, we have more jobs available than people to fill them.
And the people that are there to fill them are not necessarily qualified, oftentimes, for those jobs. So, it puts a lot of stress on especially small business owners. I mean, if you polled, went up and down the boardwalks in Ocean City and Atlantic City and Wildwood and whatever, and you talk to these store owners, I mean, chances are, I would say the majority of them are going to tell you we're having a real problem, being able to one, get and keep quality help.
Yeah.
And then obviously that, you think about the product and what is produced and what they sell, whether it's retail, selling shirts and souvenirs or food. I mean, I think it's pretty consistent theme throughout. So the bottom line is, if you, I guess what we're trying to say, if you are gainfully employable, there should be multiple opportunities for you to get to work. But I just think right now there's just a lot of people, Harry, that aren't particularly wanting to go to work right now. They'd rather just do something different with their time.
Almost everybody that wants to work right now is working right now.
Yeah, there's some summer opportunities for you and Kirk on Saturday nights, on the weekends.
Well, I know there's a very
Friday, Saturday night.
There's a very good supervisor that I'm very fond of on the Ocean City Boardwalk, and I'm going to see if I can get a weekend shift because I want to help. I'm that kind of guy. She's good.
Yeah,
She's good.
I don't know if I'd want to be working for her.
I would. I trust her. Let me bring up something I've never said on your program before, and that is the so-called FANG stocks. I've never used the term. Kirk, please tell me, with your Wharton degree, you've heard of FANG. You look a little bit. I'm looking in your eyes. He doesn't know FANG, Chuck, but I'm going to teach the Wharton School graduate.
Right, so it's actually it's FAANG now. It's because they added another A. It's Facebook, Amazon. They added Apple, Netflix, Google, which is now Alphabet, and there was a lot of interest, towards.
We taught Kirk Conover something. I'm so excited. That's the high performing technology stocks. It's the acronym.
Now the problem. I mean, what we saw yesterday, and there's a fair amount of hot money that left that group. Tech did in fact, lead us through 2018 year to date.
Yeah, they had intra highs recently.
And I'm not going to talk about an individual stock, but Netflix, I believe, and please don't quote me on this, I think year to date was up like 100%, and it had a pretty much of a sell off yesterday.
Yes,
but and probably deservedly so, because stocks just don't go up forever. I mean, we've had these discussions, for years now, and when you look, year to date, consumer discretionary, and this is going into yesterday's, up 13.6%. Technology up 13.3%. Energy's up almost 6%. So there was a fair amount of movement yesterday, Harry, out of the FANG, so to speak, and the technology and the semiconductors, and obviously the steel stocks, and a lot of it was as a result of the tariffs that will be taking place. And the big day, I think, is like July 6th. I mean, that's going to pretty much be that determining factor. Is our president for real, or is he sort of playing possum and trying to get the Chinese to basically roll over? But
do markets hate it that things are going so well, and then these things come up? You would call them maybe geopolitical type things, because he could have done nothing here, and the economy is doing so well. But he has spoken about trade for decades. When I worked for him, he hated these trade deals. He always thought we got the short end of the stick, and I think he's right about that. So you either have, in my estimation, you either have to go for it and live with the fact that the Dow was down 300 yesterday and the NASDAQ is down 160, whatever it was, and you have to live with that for the long-term gain of achieving better deals. Because if you just mess with, oh, well, we'll give you a waiver, and you either have to do it or don't do it, is what I would think.
No, you're absolutely correct, and I think what has happened here, the economy, as a result of where we are before these, tariffs that are going to supposedly go in, is doing pretty good. Now, the cost to the consumer, is going to be more expensive. I mean, Harley Davidson yesterday announced that they were going to keep their prices intact. I believe the cost to produce a motorcycle is going to increase on average about $2,000, and that Harley Davidson, were looking, to be able to do some of the production outside the U.S.,
Correct.
which is sort of counterproductive to everything that the president was looking to accomplish.
And naming the tariffs as the reason why.
Now, what I heard just as I was coming in this morning, and again, I'm not talk politics, that's what you guys talked about the last hour, but apparently the president tweeted something out just a few minutes ago stating that, the tariffs, or not the tariffs, he was disappointed with Harley Davidson, and they were already manufacturing outside the U.S., so you never know. You never know what really is happening, and he was obviously a strong supporter, of Harley Davidson.
But isn't it? It's very frustrating though, because if we don't know, markets are being driven by news that if it's either incomplete or in fact inaccurate, that's a problem.
Well, yeah, of course it is. I mean, you take a look, where we are. We've had this, what I'll call this big churn, sort of year to date. You take yesterday into account. The S&P's up roughly 3%. We'll call it 3%. The Dow is flat to being down 0.5%. The Nasdaq about up 8 to 9%. So what happened yesterday, as you mentioned before, a lot of the FANG stocks, the technology, the semiconductors, where the hot money was chasing, they had to sell off. So I think there's nothing wrong, Harry, in taking a profit. And I think what was happening here yesterday, that there was obviously a reason or excuse, to take some money off the table. And, you take into account as we started the program, a lot of people are going to be away from their desks and off. So as a result of that, you want to get your positions intact. So God forbid there is an awful problem, then you're not there to take care of it.
17 minutes past the hour. Much more with Chuck Malamut straight ahead. If he's not finished his market update, he'll continue. This is really a very important part of Chuck's program when we come back as well. The mid-year assessment. Also, the United States real GDP. Is it on the rise? The Fed and interest rates. What's the latest? U.S. banks passed first legislation of the Fed stress tests, which is very encouraging. California, New Jersey. We'll talk about that. A lot of people consider what's happening in California to be en route to happening here in New Jersey. Oil production in the United States, Social Security, a long-term issue. Chuck Malamut, all about your financial matters, continues. And for all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck Malamut, the managing director. He leads his team. The Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. We'll be back in exactly 2 minutes.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza, Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department, selection, and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service, parts, and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
At Shore Medical Center, they go to extraordinary lengths to deliver the highest quality of care in a safe and compassionate environment. They are pleased to provide 6 centers of excellence specializing in cancer, cardiovascular, neurological, orthopedic, emergency, maternity, and pediatric health care. To find a doctor, schedule an appointment, or find more information on the many excellent services Shore Medical Center provides, visit shoremedicalcenter.org.
Congratulations to Shore Medical Center for being the only hospital in Atlantic and Cape May counties to earn an A rating for quality and safety by Leapfrog Group for spring 2018. This is the 8th consecutive rating period in which Shore has earned this prestigious honor. Shore is proud of its physicians, nurses, and support staff who continue to provide the highest quality of care to the patients in our community. Find out more at shoremedicalcenter.org. Shore Medical Center, healthcare at its best.
Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hey, thank you very much. It is 20 minutes past the hour. Chuck, I want to make sure that as we feathered into the break, that if you were not done your market update, continue. And
yeah, so let's take a look so far. 2018, as I mentioned before, you've had all these contradictions. You had corporate earnings growth has been obviously nothing short of stellar. Stock prices have been sort of stuck in that one step forward, one step back. Economic growth in our country, we kind of chat about that. It is accelerating. Inflation is rising, but bond yields remain low. The question was, and always the thought process, what happens when the 10-year gets to 3%? We pierced 3 ever so slightly, maybe a 3.03, 3.05, and right now we're at about 2.87, 2.9. So yields have not really moved. Wage growth that we talked about, too many jobs for too few people. Too many jobs available and not enough people to fill them. So, wage growth is, again, moving, sort of struggling to move higher, even as our unemployment rate, as I mentioned, it's the lowest level we've seen in 50 years, and the Fed continues, and we'll talk about this in a minute, continues to increase interest rates. So, the problem, the political environment, it's not only here, Harry, it's also, around the world. It's, I guess the word uncertain, probably categorizes best.
What's this year like for you when you look at last year, which was really just?
Well, let me just finish. So, the political environment, globally remains uncertain. It really hasn't negatively impacted the financials, the fundamentals of the financials that we have. And despite all this confusion, the long-term backdrop still looks very, very promising for economic growth and for equities. And we don't think that the bull market, as we know it right now, it's not ending. It's taking a break. So it kind of feather into. I think I cut you off, but I think your question was like, what happened?
Well, I just think it's interesting for your listeners. Last year, it was, nirvana. You just maybe, who knows? Maybe never again would there be something almost so perfect that it just was so good all the time. And this is not bad, but this has been a heck of a ride. Though
this is not atypical as to what happens in the market. I think
last year was atypical.
Yes, last year when you had, I think the number was either 4 or 8. I don't remember exactly, but it was very low. The number of trading days that we had where we moved more than 1%, and you think about the fact that it was just easy. It was too easy, and I think what happened was a lot of investors, particularly individual investors, retail investors, got very, very complacent. And as a result of that, it was just too easy. And now all of a sudden, we have this big churn, I'll call it, where you have this ongoing volatility. And Harry, historically speaking, what we're witnessing right now is that on average, we have anywhere from 70 to 80 trading days over the course of the year where the indexes move plus or minus 1%. So it's not unusual. Now, it's very discouraging, certainly when you buy, you invest in equities and the expectation is, high single digits, low double digits. I think that's still very achievable for this year. But with it, there's a fair amount of volatility. And that's where investors really get a little anxious because, all of a sudden imagine you put your money to work last Thursday or Friday. The media has done just an incredible job focusing on, whatever's not working. So the Dow was down 8 out of 9 trading days, I believe. And But what was ignored is the fact that small caps, the Russell 2000, was hitting, daily, yearly highs.
Which stock left the Dow since you and I were last
Well, GE
together?
is leaving this, and it's being replaced by Walgreens. I mean, look, classic case in point. I mean, if we were going back to college or in college, and we were writing, and we were business and finance majors, what a topic to write on the rise and fall and the demise of that particular company. I mean, it's I won't go on air and voice my opinions. I think my employer would have a really tough time with that. But the prior CEO, it's we're continuing to see sort of all the damage that was created, and now every day this morning I believe they're looking to sell off Baker Hughes, looking to reduce 25% of one of their healthcare companies that they own. So the question I think that any investor would ask is the sum of the parts greater than the whole? And usually it is, but it's always questionable.
Before the bottom of the hour break, Chuck, then we have one more segment with Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, 609-383-2010, to reach the Malamut Group for all of your financial planning needs. And in sort of part of your mid-year assessment that we might still need a little bit of the next segment to finish your thoughts on it. But if last year, and this is not quite an accurate statement, but it feels that way, last year was almost you could do no wrong. This year, proper asset allocation and really looking at your positions, what you're holding, this is a year where I believe investors have to pay a lot of finite attention, don't they?
Well, one, you have to pay attention, but two, the one thing that we would caution is that when you have days like yesterday, is that you remember this is a long-term journey. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And do not let your emotions take over because chances are, the old adage, buy high, sell low, that oftentimes happens when you have situations like we witnessed yesterday. I mean, the good news is that, the Dow at one point in time was down 500 points, and we closed, we did recoup a fair amount of that. We walk in this morning, it looks like the futures are relatively mute, up slightly, I believe. Europe is having a decent day. Far East did not have a good morning or good day because it was sort of a follow through what happened here in the U.S. From yesterday. But again, Harry, it's
the world doesn't like this trade stuff.
Well, no, I don't think it does.
They like it the way it is.
Well, they like it the way it is. It's always been discussed, and it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that our president was elected. He was disruptive. I mean, there was not in a bad way, but the fact is, we elected him. The country elected him to sort of shake things up.
And he said as a candidate, and he said as a developer and as a casino owner, he always said he did not like these trade deals, that they were not fair to America, that we were always getting the short end of the stick in these deals. So it really should come as no surprise that he doesn't like NAFTA, that he doesn't like some of these other deals, and that he's either asking them to rework the deals or he's pulling out of these deals.
Yeah, so you have 200. I mean, it was originally $250 billion in tariffs, so now they're slapping on another $200 billion. So this is all supposed to start July 6th, and so now, the two countries, the U.S. and China, there's not a lot of time to negotiate a deal. I mean, we've seen these things happen. I mean, we're about 2 weeks out. So if all of the $450 billion in these proposed U.S. tariffs does, play out, China is not going to be able to retaliate, Harry, directly because it only imported $130 billion of U.S. goods in 2017. So,
but the EU can retaliate.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, so they would have to impose other non-tariff remedies, such as increased regulation on U.S. multinational companies operating in China, allowing their currency to depreciate. So, it looks like the Chinese last week did in fact reach out to try to, try to get this under control, so to speak. But the EU did announce these retaliatory tariffs on 3.2 billion of U.S. exports, including items such as bourbon, motorcycles, and cranberries.
See, my analysis of this is not for the faint of heart. I never played this game. I never liked this game because I don't play games where I'm going to wreck myself. But it's like a game of chicken. You're going straight at somebody, full born, and then you believe they're going to dive off the road before you have a head-on collision. These trade wars they're messy. They're rough.
Well, they're messy. They're rough. You look at how much was lost yesterday in the markets. I mean, it certainly is a lot more than what is the proposed tariffs they're going to place on the proposed tariffs. I think on a long-term basis, but they're free and fair trade. I mean, it'll be the next 2 weeks will be very, very interesting. And unfortunately, I think the faint of heart should probably kind of step aside because there might be some more collateral damage if things don't go the way the markets want them to go.
Chuck, we have a lot more to cover. When we come back, I'm going to ask you to extend for 60 seconds to give us your mid-year assessment. I know all the parts of what you said equal it, but maybe just a minute sort of epilogue on the mid-year assessment. How are we doing basically halfway through 2018?
Tired of going on Facebook and seeing nothing but fake news stories, your crazy relatives arguing over politics, and vacation pictures from your annoying coworker? Be sure to like WPG Talk Radio 104.1 on Facebook to get South Jersey news every time you log on. It's the local information you need at your fingertips every time you go on Facebook. Visit the WPG Talk Radio 104.1 Facebook page through WPGTalkRadio.com.
Paul D'Amato.
Harry Hurley.
Paul, I know our listeners want to know what's new with the D'Amato Law Firm.
Things are great, Harry. We are so privileged to represent our clients whose lives have been turned upside down because they were involved in a serious accident. We meet on a regular basis. We copy our clients on all our correspondence so they always know what's going on with their case. We try to treat them like family. We have Alexa here, my daughter. I'm so happy that she's here. We have Steve Van Natten and Casey Gifford. We're a great legal team.
They're the D'Amato Law Firm for all of your personal injury legal needs. Turn to the official lead counsel to the Hurley in the Morning program for more than a quarter of a century. The D'Amato Law Firm in Egg Harbor Township, 609-926-3300. That's 609-926-3300. Tell Paul, Alexa, Sandy, the entire team that Hurley in the Morning sent you.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
When your dream is building a new home, we offer mortgage options designed with your convenience in mind, like combining your construction and permanent loan into just one closing, saving you time for the really fun stuff, like planning that housewarming party.
Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender.
Hi, it's Mark Levin. Join me at 6 this evening. Now back to the Mayor of the Morning, Harry Hurley, on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
Hey, thank you, Hall of Famer. That's the great one. Elected by you, the people. He set a record. I didn't mention this with Kirk. Mark Levin set a record, the most votes, even more votes than Hannity got. Such a deserving Hall of Famer, the National Radio Broadcasters Hall of Fame. And forgive me, I should know. I think it's in November that he will be inducted. And the last time I saw Mark Levin, he went, "Are you Hurley?" And I turned around, yes, I am. He's a Hall of Famer and so deserving. And you can listen to him right here every night at 6 o'clock. We're with Chuck Malamut, the official, the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program for all of your financial planning needs. 609-383-2010. I'm being persistent, and I just wanted to give you a chance just for about a minute, and we'll go on to the GDP and some other things. What is your mid-year assessment?
So, Harry, there were a few things we chatted about as we got into the beginning of 2018. GDP. What we chatted about was, reaching 3% nominal GDP at 5% for the first time in over a decade. Even the first quarter came in at about a 2.2. Current expectations, second quarter over 3%. So I think that one was right on target. Despite ongoing protectionism, the global expansion continues with fewest countries in recession in history. That is, in fact, the case. We talked about unemployment in the beginning of the year. Lowest level now in 50 years as wage growth is the highest since the Great Recession. That was accurate. Yield curve, we talked about how it's going to potentially flatten. Does not invert, because remember, Harry, if the yield curve inverts, it's that big R, capital R word.
Yes.
As the 10-year Treasury reaches 3% for the first time since 2014. So that did, in fact, happen, because like I said earlier, we were like at a 3.05. Questionable. Stocks enjoying their longest bull market in history, but experience a 5+% correction after the longest period without one. So I think, Harry, that, you think about the fact that we did correct in the beginning of the year, and we are up year to date in spite of that. So I think that could go the right way. Sixth prediction we came up with: U.S. equities returns lag earnings growth for the first time in 6 years. Long streak in decade. That, in fact, happened. Equities beat bonds. That was prediction number 7 for the 7th consecutive year. That's, in fact, happening. Telecommunication, services, technology, healthcare outperform utilities, energy, and materials. Harry, that's questionable right now. And, the last one we saved with a big question mark. Republicans lose the House, retain the Senate, and further distance themselves from President Trump.
If you look at World War II to the present, only two times has that not been the case when you have margins that are as close as this. It's about a 50-50 proposition from my vantage point, but you as a financial person, it's very solid what you said, and we'll see what happens. But it's going to be interesting.
But remember now, CNBC, I think it was just yesterday, or maybe the day before, came out with their latest poll, and our president has the highest ratings that he has had from the time he was elected.
Correct.
So,
that is true. Down a little bit in more recent surveys because of the whole dust-up of separating children from their families and things like that. It's probably cost him about, depending on the different survey, 3 to 4 points. But yeah, lots going on, and we'll see what kind of coattails the incumbent president has at the midterm elections. U.S. real GDP, is it on the rise, Chuck?
Harry, it is. I mean, when you look at GDP today, we are literally hitting on all cylinders at this point in time. The expectation is that we're going to go through that 4% number. Now we've seen actually some analysis and some economists saying that we're going to get close to 5 right now. So, and we're going to get a lot of this information as we get in the latter part of the week, as the government data comes out, and the analysts will fine tune all their projections for the second quarter. But we're looking at real GDP growth of 4.5% annualized.
And that's not just Atlanta saying that now, right?
Or 3.2% year over year. So investors are going to focus on growth from productivity as that continues to rebound. So what is happening here is that as we kind of, we weren't kidding around this morning, but we talked about earlier the fact that we have a lot of good things going on in this country, and in spite of what we hear or see, throughout these different media outlets, I think we're in pretty good shape.
I agree. Let me bring you into my lane for a second. If there was more intellectual honesty in the media reporting of how incredibly well the economy has been performing for the past 18 months, would it even be better?
I don't know if it would necessarily be better, but I think we would all feel better because what happens.
That was a really good answer.
Thank you. I think what happens is that we're firing on all most cylinders, but you got it's like you got this little person on your shoulder just nagging in your ear all the time, saying bad stuff. This is not happening. This is not happening.
That's why I'm wondering. We can't. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, but I just think if there was more positivity, then people might even have a more optimistic outlook, which could lead to more investment. And I can't prove my point, but I think I'm right.
Thinking this through, Harry, I think you're right, because if you're looking to buy an automobile, for instance, and whatever your price range is, and you say, okay, this is where I'm going to be. I can't exceed this, but if things are, the world's better, global peace. No tariffs, or another phrase. Chuck, you're going to upgrade.
Just in our lifetime, and you're very young, but just in our young lifetime, that when the economy is booming, and or feel like that you're going to be gainfully employed, and you don't have to worry, you will make major, big time, long term type purchases and plans. Whereas if all of a sudden, I don't know, people pull back. No,
Harry. You are absolutely correct on that. I mean,
I think we're doing this well in spite of all the negativity that's going on.
I think, and again, it is getting better here, locally, as we onboard the 2 new casinos this week.
What do you think about that?
I am going to hold my comments for now. Okay. I just, because I don't think it'd be really fair for me to go on air, but. I think it's great for the city and to get new inventory, refreshed inventory, more parking, and I'm hoping that's the key. I mean,
the new inventory means we might be able to bring an event that we wouldn't have been able to bring. Well, there's a lot of rippling effects.
Yeah, but I think the nagging thought is that we all think about these 2 new facilities in fact grow the business.
That's.
Because you're seeing this, just the competition just intensifies outside of our area.
Right. If it turns into cannibalizing the size jurisdiction that we are now, then that will ultimately not be a good thing. And then all that contraction and Atlantic City finding itself a certain size gaming jurisdiction will be challenged because of that. On the other hand, just the Hard Rock entertainment policy of basically having slammer live entertainment 3 out of every 4 days throughout the entire year, that's going to make the entire market have to up their game.
Yeah, but I think, Harry, what it gets down to, again, the cost of doing business. So, if there's only so many ways to stretch that, and you take a property that doesn't have entertainment and is reasonably profitable. And now they're kind of forced into that. I mean, that might not be a good solution for them.
Changes their business model. Because anymore, in the old days, you could try something. Oh, that didn't work. We did a P&L. Oops. But now you got to be sharp on these things that you're spending on, and they have to hit the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Chuck, the Fed and interest rates. You touched on the Fed. You said, hey, because the economy is growing, they're going to continue to raise interest rates. This should be a standalone thought, though. What's going on there in your view?
So last week, Chairman Powell, was at the annual gathering of the central banks in Portugal, and the case was made for this continual gradual rise in interest rates. And then he had pointed to, again, low unemployment, inflation. That they're approaching the target that the Fed set out. So. While asset prices are high by historical standards, he didn't see, these broad signs of excessive borrowing. So, banks have a lot more capital, than they had before. So, chances are, we're looking at a few more, hikes before, the end of this year. But again, the Fed's always going to err on the side of caution, because if some economic reports show up and they don't show up the right way, then chances are they'll put the brakes on that.
Chuck, I love this next topic on your show because it's almost forgotten when we were in the 2008-ish era and in the Great Recession, and the media would obsess of any type of bank stress test that would be, and we would get news reports, and then we would get the follow-up of, did they pass the test? There'd be reports before the test. Now nobody even reports on this stuff anymore because I believe there's a predisposed bias that the banks are going to pass the stress tests. It's almost not news, which I would submit, if I'm right, I think I am, that it's a real positive because nobody is stressing about the stress tests anymore.
Yeah, so U.S. banks, Harry, did in fact, they all passed the stress test, and it was the first leg, as they referred. There were 35 large banks that were subject to the Fed's stress test, and they passed the first quantitative phase of this annual examination. So it's expected the Fed's going to release the results in some sort of fashion either this week or next week. Banks have to pass the stress test in order to be able to return capital to shareholders through dividends and share buybacks. And if you remember, when we were living through the Great Recession shortly thereafter, a lot of the big banks either substantially cut or eliminated their dividend. And from an investor's perspective, financials, there's a component of not only growth but also dividend. So the banks want to be in a position to be able to increase that dividend and be able to return to shareholders so that the shareholders will, in fact, own that security.
And Chuck, Captain Obvious here, but generally speaking, the banks are strong right now.
The banks, Harry, are very, very strong. I mean, there are, and I think with all the changes that have taken place, the regionals, I know that Ocean First advertises with you, fairly substantial sponsor. That sort of market capitalization, I think a bank of that size and the competition are probably posed to do fairly well, as we, see ourselves through the next, 5 to 10 years.
Here's another topic that I can't wait to hear the Malamut analysis: California and New Jersey.
Harry, when I saw this, I don't want to say I fell out of my chair because I was kind of expecting this, and I think this is probably going to, I think we're right behind it. And, in the San Francisco Bay Area, there was a rather large survey that took place, and the results were incredible, not in a good way. 46% of the residents that were polled plan to move from California within the next few years, primarily due to the cost of housing and traffic.
It's half their people.
Housing and traffic. So think about that. Like, housing in North Jersey and traffic in North Jersey and taxes throughout the state of New Jersey.
Well, Chuck, here's something we've been reporting on. The companies have there's a cottage industry. It's popped up, shops where people run companies to help people leave. What a horrible need they're filling.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's horrible for the state that's losing the resident. It's wonderful for the state that is absorbing that that family or
you mentioned
that person.
California. I don't have it in front of me, and I didn't prep this topic, but I know I saw it. There is a great expectation of flight out of this state.
Absolutely. I mean, you have New Jersey, you have Connecticut, you have Illinois. It doesn't take much to figure out. And I mean, the ongoing debate, our budget, June 30, right, for the state of New Jersey. I mean, they're going to be in the 11th hour trying to figure it out.
They're going to be freezing the clock at 11:59:59.
So the question is, who is it going to cost businesses, or is it going to cost individuals?
This is the poison. There's two doors, and there's a vial of poison between which door, and you pick whether you want hemlock or if you want psychedelic mushrooms.
But door number 3, everybody seems to ignore, and that's to be able to to control your costs.
Amen, brother.
And reduce your expenses. And unfortunately, we've been here a long time, and you hear the rhetoric that comes out. Well, I'm going to be the next person who's going to fix the problem, and I thought you were absolutely correct, and I'm going to one of the times I'm going to disagree with Kirk here.
If I wasn't standing, I'd have fallen out of my chair.
Kirk, I don't know if you're listening or not, but I do agree with the term limits. And the fact is that I think 6 years is plenty.
Yes.
If you're really
12 becomes career politician too.
If you're really all about it, and you do work hard for your constituents, you can get a lot done in that 6 year period of time.
You'd be like the throwback to the people that, when this country was founded, left their farm, and within a term or two, they had to get back because their business was going to be destroyed, and it would make them. The big problem that I have right now, they're not beholden to the laws that they create. They've got their own beautiful health care.
Exactly.
They have their pensions. And because it was never meant to be permanent like that, yeah, I think we're right about that too, Chuck. I'd like to pursue. I even said I would put some time and effort into a group that would pursue the term limit, but it would have to be the 1 6-year term and 3 2-year terms.
But if you remember, Congressman Lobiondo, when he first ran, he was in favor of term limits.
Yeah, it's true. You had 3 to 6, and he was a fan.
So I don't know what happened there. He
didn't want to leave.
It kind of got lost in the shuffle.
He didn't want to leave.
But I mean, I'm not taking a shot at the congressman, but you say one thing, you should be living up to those particular standards.
And that's a good preview because he will be here tomorrow in the 7 o'clock hour with Ask the Congressman. I know we're on overtime, Chuck, but I want to squeeze 2 more things in because
we're good. So we can keep going.
Good. Oil production in our country, how are we doing?
So, Harry, I think we kind of talked about this maybe about a month ago. In the U.S. right now, we are running the run rate's about 10.9 million barrels per day. That's where we were about 2 weeks ago. It's the highest level recorded for our country since we started to take records of this back in 1920.
That's
so
fantastic.
One of the things that you always talked about was, energy independence.
Yes.
Can we? Should we? How do we get there? I mean, certainly, we look a lot better now than we did, say, 5, 7, 10 years ago.
But you did school me on something this year. I don't remember exactly when it was. Even if we could produce enough,
it's the cost to move it,
right?
The product.
So it's better that we get rid of it and we get a product that's ready to go.
Well, it's closer. Yeah,
yes.
It's very expensive to imagine you move from Alaska down to the deep south. There is a cost to do that, but I think we are certainly moving in the right direction.
2-minute drill because we have a break to get in. Our last topic, and I really want to commend you, Chuck, because you've really made a priority out of remembering to remember to keep Social Security as an issue that you bring up on your show pretty often, because obviously we're hitting the most challenging chapter in the history of Social Security with baby boomers hitting retirement age. This is what was theory, abstract, and for decades, oh my gosh, when the baby boomers, all the World War II babies, Chuck and Harry, when all these folks are of retirement age, what are your thoughts about Social Security?
Well, I read an article, Harry, and I was floored because you never really understand until somebody sometimes puts it in black and white and puts it in your face. The estimated shortfall from Social Security, that it's a present value number between the future taxes that were going to be anticipated being collected and the benefits being paid out over the next 75 years, 13.2 trillion.
So let me
13.2 trillion,
which obviously makes us insolvent as a country because we know where our debt is now. Let me ask you this, because I know you and I have addressed this point, and I have personal interest. So do you. We've been paying into it for 40-some years, each of us. Will near retirees or current recipients be negatively impacted?
So if you stay on this runway, so to speak, Harry, there's a couple things that need to happen. One, if you immediately increased, and I know nobody wants to hear this, the payroll tax by 2.8 percentage points.
And we need to do that after we increase the gas tax for a second time, and after we raise the sales tax back up to 7, we need to increase the payroll
so if
tax.
if you increase Social Security payroll tax by 2.75 percentage points, or, and I don't think your listeners want to hear this either, immediately take a 17% reduction in benefits. That will get us, out of that hole, so to speak.
All right. Well, so let me. We only have 30 seconds because I have to get this break in. But we've always taken the position it will not affect near retirees like us or current recipients. Are you saying that's not the case?
Well,
anymore?
no. I think it's not the case unless if you want to continue to run that deficit. Now the problem, what it gets down to is that, where are we, 50 years from now? And the fact is, I think, we always talk about this in our retirement planning. We talk about it to our participants in 401k plans, is that you will get the benefit, but a couple of things will be happening. It could be reduced, and when you collect that, instead of collecting full retirement age 66 and change for us or whatever, they might push it, a couple years out after that.
Chuck, brilliant hour. I mean that so sincerely, no tongue-in-cheek at all. 609-383-2010, best in the business for all of your financial planning needs. Chuck Malamut, I salute you.
Harry, thank you. We'll see you next week, right?
Look forward to it. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Health Update brought to you by the law offices of Richard A. Stoloff, New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Just last year, it became legal to sell and possess non-explosive fireworks for anyone 16 years and older. These include party poppers and sparklers. And even though they're non-explosive, these fireworks can still be incredibly dangerous. Sparklers, even with wooden handles, can reach temperatures more than 1,000 degrees, so probably not a good idea to give them to our kids. When using fireworks, read all of the instructions, use them outdoors only and away from any flammable material. Also, be sure your pets are indoors away from the action. While it may be exciting to use fireworks, every year there are injuries and emergency visits on the 4th of July. Your best bet, leave it to the professionals who put on a better show than any of us ever could. I'm Robin Stoloff. Happy 4th of July.
Brought to you by the law offices of Richard A. Stoloff, StoloffInjuryLaw.com. Attention you expect, results you deserve.
What do you hear? Most people just hear an engine. We hear a 6.2-liter Hemi V8 with a supercharger that accelerates so fast, it'll suck the air out of your lungs and knock you back in your seat like you're an astronaut in a rocket ship hurtling through the stratosphere. But then again, we're not most people. We're the Brotherhood of Muscle. Dodge. Domestic, not domesticated. Dodge is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Today, business happens here, and virtually anywhere. Because today, innovative companies are reinventing the way business happens. And they need people who can keep up. With the expertise and technology to get packages to over 150 million delivery points. So, who can help you deliver the future of commerce? The United States Postal Service. See why we deliver more e-commerce packages to homes than anyone at USPS.com/future.
What interest rate would you rather pay on your credit card debt? 17% or less than 6% APR? The answer is obvious, Lightstream. Because with Lightstream, you may be able to consolidate credit card debt and dramatically cut your interest rate to as low as 5.89% APR with AutoPay. Plus, radio listeners get an additional rate discount. Just go to lightstream.com/now. With average interest rates on credit card debt at 17% APR, Lightstream could save you thousands in interest. And because Lightstream is a division of SunTrust Bank, one of the nation's largest and strongest financial institutions, you can have complete peace of mind. The application takes just minutes, and there are no fees and no pressure. Just lower rates, one low fixed monthly payment, and huge savings. So if you have good credit, apply today and get a special interest rate discount when you go to lightstream.com/now. That's lightstream.com/now. Lightstream.com/now.
Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.5% autopay discount. Terms and conditions apply and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com for more information.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what you call in the business tour de force Malamut. That he brought it. That was your market update, your mid-year assessment, U.S. real GDP. I wish Chuck could hear me say this. He is going to return in the studio in a moment, but he's not within earshot. My good friend Bob and Cape May reminded me that we already lead the nation in migration. How could that be? How could we have more migration than California? If that doesn't tell you that something is dramatically out of kilter, oh my gosh. Chuck talked about the Fed and the interest rates, the U.S. banks, and the first leg of the Fed stress tests. California, which is worse, California or New Jersey? Is that a conversation you ever thought you'd have? Oil production, Social Security. And guess what? Open Forum begins right now.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ 97.3 HD3 Millville. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
President Trump says Democrats want open borders and don't mind crime. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
It's the party of Maxine Waters. Do you believe her?
Those boos at a rally last night in South Carolina as the president referred to the Democratic congresswoman who's calling on people to protest his cabinet members. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen heard chants while out at dinner last week. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was refused service at a restaurant, and demonstrators picketed out